None of us can read Japanese, but I'm curious to know, do all of these flags always have the full name of the soldier who had the flag, so there's never any doubt about who the guy was that they found the flag on? Is that always the case?
Oh, excellent question. He's asking, is there always a name on every flag that has the, and how do we know out of all these names? Well, when it's given to somebody, they put almost like a to Mr. or to you or congratulations. So there is an indication as to who it was that somebody who can read absolutely can see and understand. But we've received many of these flags with numerous signatures addressed to nobody. And in trying to research what that was and what was going on, many of those apparently came from situations like a high school, where young men were being drafted right out of junior or senior year in high school. And to give them something from the school, the teachers would all gather and perhaps make 10 or 15 or 20 of these at the same time, almost generically, that they would fold, and each young man who would leave, they would hand him one. Here's one from your school. Or if the man was working in a post office or a bank or something, you would have all these signatures. And so it's not specifically addressed to anybody, but we assume, or our scholars in Japan say, that that's probably what it was. They would do it collectively, a dozen at a time, and then when those were gone, do another dozen. And so that would be an exception.
But that case is a very a small percentage. Majority of the flag we have been receiving, I would say 90% of the flag, they have the individual soldier's full name, so that can be identified. And then few of them, the sample, the recs explain that they do not have typical Mr. such do not address, but we did return to the community. What our scholars does is analyzing the other grouping name or the company or the school, so we can accommodate to the individual prefecture, the local town, so that town people, they honoring the soldier who came to that place. So number of the flag, when we could not find a specific family, we return to the community, they honoring the flag. So that's different.
So I'm just wondering, so how many Japanese families have contacted you now that, like, you have this society? Like, they've contacted you to say, like, we are missing the flag, you know, we would like that back. Are you getting that reception on the other side?
She's asking about, are the Japanese asking for these back? And no, they are not.
Very few. I think I would say we have been doing this for last 7 years. Probably few cases, 2 or 3, I have received by email, that knowing they find our Obon Society, and in case if you happen to find that, that's very 2 or 3.
Yeah. One was a man who is a veteran. He's like 96, and he asked his son, who was like in his 70s, to contact us. And he was on a troop ship being brought back to Japan after the surrender, I think from New Guinea or somewhere. And he said the sailors came through and took everybody's watches and took their Yosagaki Hinomaru on the way back. And then he told his son, mine had 42 signatures on it, of women's signatures, and if these people find it, could you tell them to send it to me? And so he still remembered, and he lost his flag. He didn't care about his watch, but if we come across this flag with 42 signatures, could we send it to him? He wanted it back. And that was one such example. But I think most of the Japanese, of course, most of the soldiers are dead. Most of them don't even know this exists.
The majority of throughout Japan, this is so unknown. People have no idea. So many flags out in the state still exist in, as you can see, pristine condition. I believe that American soldier whatever the reason they brought it back, they respectfully kept it such a good condition. Either the American veteran or the veteran passed away, for the family who inherited, they really respectfully kept it in such a good condition. But majority of Japanese people, including my family, have no idea even this exists or that can be somewhere out there. So they can't even request because they don't know.
How many flags have you returned to Japan?
Okay, how many flags have we returned to Japan? Right now, it's somewhere between 80 and 90.
Yeah, 60
now.
was the time when we had the CBS, the producer came about the 60, but we return many more now, so between 80 and 90. Mm-hmm.
How many do you have now that you're researching?
We're searching now somewhere probably between 300
Current
and 400.
search is over 200 to almost 10. And then after the CBS produced throughout the nationwide, we received so many of them. So we have been cataloging and doing the search. So still we have some waiting to search. So the total of about 400 we have now.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have something where if you wanted to make a donation? I mean,
Yes, we do.
we-
Sitting there in where you can't find them. We
the segment from Good Morning America. I watch that every week, and you know, things like this you find out about various interesting facts.
It's a wonderful program, CBS Sunday Morning. It's just on a little too early for a lot of people. But anyways, no, it's a wonderful program. We were very flattered, and in fact, they had been talking to us since November of last year to film this, and we wanted to find a perfect situation for them. And for many of the Japanese to be interviewed, this is not they just want to receive it quietly. They don't want TV cameras coming there. This is their deceased father or brother coming, and they don't want to go on camera. So finding the right couple was very difficult. And then President Obama announced that he was going to go to Hiroshima earlier this year, and that caused everything to accelerate. And so this production could be made, and we were able to.
This CBS was aired on May 29th, and then the President Obama this year, yes, and President Obama visited to Hiroshima was May 27th, I believe. So that was a memorial weekend. And
Yeah, Lee Cowan, I think he's a rock star.
But what we do, the shrine ceremony or the media or anything, we as a Obon society do not ask American, no, or Japanese family what to do. We are purely humanitarian organization. We listen to them. If the American who has a possession wishing to return it, we help them. Vice versa, when we find a family in Japan, we don't tell them how they need to receive it. Mostly, they really surprised because they have no idea. So its first wave is a shock. And then when they absorb the information, then they really have this overwhelming of the joy. But the Judge Neil Morali offering to meet them, and then we contacted them, but it really depending on the Japanese family. Some of them, they wanted to receive quietly. This is not about the celebration. It's somebody who held this sorrow and pain for over 70 years. So some of the Japanese, they wish to receive, but they wanted to receive very privately and quietly. So as a Obon society, we are the bridge in between two nations, and then we ask them, if you like to receive, certainly, how would you like to receive? So if they said, I want to just to receive it by mail, like a Hokkaido man who's under the chemotherapy. We just quietly send it to their home, same as the Judge Malali's flag. They wanted to receive quietly. That's what we do. We're not going to tell them. So that in this case, that when you see in the video, they wanted to celebrate or have a returning ceremony at the shrine, and then they welcome us to present it. They don't even say, okay, you can take a video, no problem. So each case we listen, and then we make that wish to come true. That's what we do. So we're not gonna tell them, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that. This is purely come from their heart from America, and then to Japan. That's we do.
And in fact, there's numerous flags where families have contacted us and confirmed what it is that we do. And it will be like maybe a brother and a sister who have their father's flag. And we ask them to make sure that there's no conflict with other family members if you're going to do this. And they will talk to like maybe another remote brother or nephew or somebody, and that person might say, well, no, I want to keep Grandpa's or whatever's flag. I want to keep that souvenir. And so then they contact us and they say, well, we want to send it to you, but I have my brother in New Jersey says his son wants it as a keep it. And so it's in this conflict. And in those situations, we do not tell them what to do. We just say, you do not make any trouble within your family. You talk about it. You decide what you want to do. And if you decide you want to send it to us, we'll be here. We'll receive it. But don't disrupt family feelings, because some of these are held as souvenirs here, and they're precious to the families here, and we have to be sensitive to those feelings also. We're not trying to cause a war. We're trying to just mend one. And so we tell them, you talk it over, and when you're ready, send it to us if you're ready. And so we have many in that in-between situation.
Right.
Yes?
The flags that you're displaying here, are they ones that you're currently researching?
Yes, all of, well, Keiko, are these all under search
No,
yet?
this is still queued up. We just recently received this one, and then we have the order to search, but this will soon become official search.
Oh.
Yes.
Is that a tiger?
Yes,
Yes,
this
that's-
is
that's a
a
tiger.
hand-painting tiger, and as you can see, individual flag, none of them are same, because this was created individual family members who care for that soldier to go to the battlefield. So it's not customized, the printed. This is all individual.
And
None
do you
of them
see
are
the other
same.
tiger? The tiger on this one? So abstract, we couldn't figure it out. Here are its eyes and its whiskers. And here he is, these blots, and here's one of his paws, and then here's his tail coming across here like this, and his other claw. So he's kind of behind the sun holding it, but so abstractly done that it looks like smudges. He's just almost like this ghost tiger. And so, so they express themselves artistically on these sometimes. Yes, ma'am.
Have Japanese soldiers always carried these into all wars?
We do not know. The earliest that we can find this as any of these, I think, date from like maybe the mid-1930s. Is that right, Keiko?
Yes, Sino or China War.
China
That
War,
is
maybe
as early as we have received so
1936.
far. Mhm.
Yes. So that's
But
as far as we know.
The majority that during the World War II, there are so many numbers that we have been receiving daily.
Yeah. Everybody that we have returned to was of World War II. Yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
I assume that you are not able to go and carry all those 80 flags back. You have an intermediary in Japan who works with you to deliver some flags?
Oh, yes, we're not alone here. We have associates here in the United States that assist us in different capacities, and then in Japan we have a team of scholars from north to south that do the heavy lifting of the kind of FBI detective working. And yes, we have representatives there, just volunteer basis. That if a family now, Obon Society in Japan has gone from being unknown to where some families will request that an Obon Society representative present it to them. And we're just like a little nonprofit where we just do on donations, and here we're paying our staff in Japan that are just volunteers to travel to these places and return this. But it's now becoming kind of a status symbol that they had an Obon Society representative there at the ceremony. So it's changing. But yes, we have people there. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, in the back there. Les will bring you a microphone here.
I never saw the movie, but I always curious about the title. Is this what Flags of Our Fathers was about? The Clint Eastwood movie?
First, CBS came out. That's how they title. Yes, they are.
No,
and then we happen to.
That's not his question.
It was the Clint Eastwood movie
yes,
a few years ago.
James Bradley,
yes,
James Bradley, son of John Bradley, who was one of the people who raised the flag on Iwo Jima, wrote a book about his father called Flags of Our Father. And then Clint Eastwood bought the rights to that book and made the movie. And it was about Iwo Jima. And no, CBS
No.
for some reason filmed us, and then they titled it the same as that book, which we happen to be friends of James Bradley. So that's like really kind of worrisome to us because it's about something entirely different.
I think maybe that's the reason what we have noticed recently. First, CBS Sunday Morning came out to feature us. They put that title, and then they put the different title. I forgot, it's the longer, nothing to do with this name. Change the name and then put the same segment on their CBS Sunday Morning YouTube. So I don't know if somebody said, hey, don't use that title, or why they changed that title. So they have two titles.
So we would never have called it Flags of Our Father because there's a movie and a book with that title. So we would have called it anything but that. But CBS apparently wasn't aware of that. So there's the confusion. Yes. Well, oh, yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh yes, our work is all depending on that contribution. In case if you would like to support to try return many more flags, we just in case we brought the envelope and here and the table. I'm not asking you anything, but if you feel like the supportive us, and
we're awkward about this. Some people ask for they're always asking. I always get asked for money from everybody. You go shopping, people's asking, and neither one of us come from families that we've always just been people who pay for it as we go. If we don't have money for it, we don't buy it. We just kind of do it our own selves. And so we started this with no idea of where it was going, and it's turned into something enormous. And well, we now have a little office in Astoria downtown, so we can get staff in there. But a lot of work is done not only in the office, in the attic, but in the bedroom and in the kitchen and in the living room and downstairs and on the porch, because it's just is too much. But so we just operate. We've written grant applications to foundations, but this subject, I think, is so confusing for people to try to assess. Like, if they contribute money to us, is that offensive to the American veterans? Is that a slap in their face? Is it promoting the Japanese and their efforts? Is this, and we think that it gets into where people start worrying, and it's much easier to give money to a foundation that's dealing with like dirty diapers and really there's a big foundation that children and homeless and education, very safe.
Nobody questioned them.
Yes,
But
so we
what
feel
do
that's.
It's very complex, and we don't talk about war because they're happening in the past. Nobody can change it. Everybody remembers it, but that's not what we are trying to achieve. But what we can achieve is, in the future, a relationship. Where can we go from here? And we are just trying to make a peace in the world, and the people. You will be surprised daily when we hear that people contacting us and they share that feeling and a message to the other side of the ocean. I personally feel my mission or our mission is to convey that so many people around the United States have that compassion and kindness and feeling towards them. The people of Japan have no idea what is going on here. So it's not just a flag or thing, what you can see. We would wish to convey the same feeling along the flag to Japan, and they need to know.
All right. Oh, there's more questions. Yes, yes.
Can you talk about the significance of the year 2020 and what you guys are planning to do?
The 2020, I mean, she's kind of asking a question. We had lunch with her, a lovely attorney here, and it's Karen, and it's the year 2020. Okay, we're year 2016 now. Year 2020 is this sort of convergence of this very interesting timeline of that is the year that will be the 75th anniversary of the surrender of Japan, or the beginning of 75 years of peace with Japan. And it's also the year that Japan will be hosting the Olympics, which will be receiving this international attention. And so if we had the power, and who knows where this is going, what we would do is just spread this idea across America that if you have things that came back from the war that you want to return to somebody to try to maybe heal their hearts or these broken families, we'll take care of that. And then we would spread that message to Canada and England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland, and then down to New Zealand and Australia. And we would target this for the year 2020. So after the Olympics, after all that's out of the way, we would do what we would call like a major international reconciliation ceremony, where these items from these combatant families, these warring families, come back to Japan for the purpose of closure, and everybody can say, well, that was horrible, let's not do that again, and let's talk about the future and build a better tomorrow, and just kind of turn the page or close that chapter of history and move forward. And so that's kind of what's in our mind 2020, and that's what we're working towards. It's a big project, but we've come a long ways from not even knowing what we were doing. So did you have a question?
Yes, I've heard that sometimes other countries have returned dog tags to America. Have you heard anything about that? That's a closure too for Americans getting things back. Have you heard anything on that end?
I've not heard about dog tags coming back, but we were contacted by the embassy in Japan, the American embassy, they were asking us, what do we do? And what they had is actually a pilot's knife. And this pilot had been shot down. This plane had crashed, American plane, on Japanese soil. And this family had this knife with JP carved into leather. And then through other people and other resources here in America, we knew what kind of airplane it was and its number, and we could easily track back, or other scholars could track back here, what was the crew on that plane on that day that it crashed. And they found that that was Mr. Paulson of like Austin, Texas. And so that knife was returned back to him the other way. And so that was the one incident that we were kind of involved in, just on the very edge of observing. So yes, it's going back each way. It's kind of like the beginning. Yes, sir.
What's your background? I mean, you haven't done this your entire life, right?
Well, you're not interested. You're not interested in my background. You are? Well, I'll tell you my background. It's kind of a silly thing to say, especially the second time for some people. But my dad said there's two types of people men on this earth. There's men who work from the neck down, and men who work from the neck up. And our family all worked from the neck down. So I come from a family of loggers in the Pacific Northwest. Not timber cutters, but we would move the logs out, high lead, slackline yards. So when I left high school education, that's what I did. I went in the woods logging. I happened to have a camera, bought a camera, kind of taught myself photography, and actually became a freelance photographer and then a cinematographer for Discovery Channel, and was sent around the world. And then, just when I got that kind of where it was going to be a successful career, I pivoted in another direction and happened to study some local history and happened to redefine the arrival of Lewis and Clark at the Pacific Ocean, and then became a big shot and wrote a couple books, and people asked me to lecture here. So then I became like a historian, and so now this is like another pivot. So it's so, yeah, you don't want to hear that. Yes, ma'am. When did I meet her, or how? I met her floating in the ocean. No, really, it's serious. North of New Zealand.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
on the
it was on
ship,
a
I was
ship, of
working
course.
on
So she's not a
the cruise
mermaid.
ship, trying to workers. I was an officer on the workers ship I was working on for years and years. And then he was invited as a guest lecturer during the workers. At that time, he speaks about the Captain James Cook around that area. So where we met, that was 7 years ago. And
she jumped ship.
No, and then he was #1 rating guest speaker at that time. It's the second segment of the whole workers. No, he was very popular among with that the whole workers on the Crystal. And then at the end of the segment, they have an enquete. You know, the guest can write ratings. He was a top rating of the guest lecture, and.
Are there any serious?
I was nothing to do with him because I was working taking care of all the guest relations. I'm not taking care of him. But he was so popular, so I was working whole workers. Last segment, 7th segment of the workers, there's a last minute cancellation of the guest lecturer on board. Then Crystal, the headquarters, said, oh, we are in trouble, so we need somebody replacement. Oh, here Rex Ziak was popular. Why can't he come over? So he got the phone call in the middle of the nowhere. Can you make it the last segment of the workers? He happened to be available that time. So he came back, and the entire whole workers, they was...
They don't care about that, Keiko. No, this is serious here.
So the people was waiting about to see him, and then, oh my God, the Rex Ziak is back. I don't know, some magical happened. It was just so natural. That last segment, 3 days before the end of the war cruise, he proposed me.
You can tell the Iron Man story.
Well, and then the booth we get off the ship, 1 week later, he has never been to Japan. He flew over to Kyoto and to see my parents for the marriage permission week later. And then at that time, I thought, maybe this is a man. He never been married. I never been married. We both old, kind of. But this is maybe the man I will spend the rest of my life. So at that time, when my parents said yes to him, I share my family miracle story about my grandfather's flag came back. That was year 2007. It was happened to my family. So I thought this is something so important to my family. I have to share. So when he came to visit my parents in Kyoto, I shared this story to him, miracle. Everybody thought, why can be possible that middle of nowhere in Burma, the grandfather disappeared 62 years later, ended up in Canada, and coming back to my family in Japan. So I told a story about him. He is a historian, curiosity, and the researcher. Oh my God, what is happened to the grandfather? Why came back? So when he researched and find out there are so many other miracles could be happen. So that was a time when we met, year 2009, this Obon Society was born. Okay. Sorry, it wasn't the plan.
No more questions of that type.
I'm sorry, it wasn't the plan.
Well, excuse me? No, still don't. Oh, no. There's people who have, Americans who have lived in Japan for 40 years, and you ask them, how is your Japanese? They go, I'm still learning. It's that complex.
But his wish is he wants to speak Japanese so he can understand all my father is saying about me or him. I translate and not accurately, so he doesn't like that.
There's no pronouns in Japanese. Do you know that? There's no pronouns. So if, like, I'm riding in the car with her father, and he just talks out loud, he goes, "Koko ita, koko ita," which means here went. He just says it. And Keiko taps me on the shoulder. Father's asking if this is where you went yesterday. And I said, he didn't ask me that. Well, he did. He didn't say my name. He didn't say you or, did you? It just, here went. And Keiko says, well, it has to be you because you're the only one that went anywhere yesterday. And none of us went anywhere. And so if he says it, it has to be. And so they have to fill in all those gaps in the conversation. And it just drives you crazy. You just don't know what they're saying. Believe me, it is difficult. I speak Spanish, and that's easy. I mean, this is German. So, anyways, well, I just want to thank all of you for coming out this evening, giving us our time. You see what we're doing. We're not demanding anything of anybody. And thank you, Neil, and everybody else for arranging for us to come here. Thank you so much for allowing us to share this story of this other chapter of America and what it is to be American. You go to war when it's war, and afterwards you can reconcile and not hold those grudges. And so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.